Can you see the screen? Okay. So shall I start or wait for a few minutes? Okay. I'll wait for 2 minutes. I've already shared the instruction sheet, the soft copy of the instruction sheet through Rohit. I hope Rohit shared the instruction sheet with all of you. So the experiment, okay, I'll wait 1 more minute. Well, let me start. The name of the experiment is a study of DC servomotor characteristics. So many keywords are there in the title of the experiment, study of DC servomotor characteristics. So before I explain the meaning of each and every keyword, I would like to state the objective. Objective is written as to study the operation of a DC servomotor controlled by a servo amplifier in armature control mode and to determine its transfer function. Okay. So here we have a servo motor and we have to find out its characteristics experimentally. Study means experimental study, not theoretical study. You all already performed theoretical study in second year, I think, system theory class to derive the transfer function from its basic law of physics. So here we will determine the transfer function. First of all, speed torque characteristics as well as transfer function. Afterwards, using experimental method. Now, points of discussions are like this. What is a servo system that you must know? What is the meaning of this keyword servo? And significant aspects of DC servo motor. And necessity of determining the characteristics of DC servo motor. Experimental setup, I shall explain. Then procedure. Then sample test data, I shall show you because it's a virtual class. So I cannot show you the exact data. Use of that data, how to use, and discussion, finally conclusion. So what is a servo system? That should be clear to you. As per the textbook, well-known textbook by Nagraj Gopal, it is written as servo mechanism is a feedback control system. It's a good example of feedback control system. Application of feedback control system in which the control variable is a mechanical position or its time derivative. That means the motion control. Main objective of servo system is to control motion. Actually, this is not the complete definition. Servo system is such mechanical system where you track the commanded motion. That is the exact definition. You give a reference input in terms of desired motion, desired velocity, desired displacement or position, or desired acceleration. And your servo system should track that commanded input on commanded motion. That means the desired, it should track the desired motion. There are several examples in industrial application of servo system. Most of the electromechanical systems in automation industry are servo system. A good example is a robot. Industrial robot arms are actually a very, you can say, very important application of servo system because the joints, robot joints, that are to be controlled, their motion is to be controlled, are the reference is given from an algorithm called path planning. So path is determined depending upon the task to be performed, and then that path is tracked or followed by the servo control system. Okay, and your autopilot also is a good application of servo system. Let's say the tracking of the radar or tracking of very large antenna is also a servo system. Now, what is the basic building block or main building block of a servo system? Here I have given a very simple, schematic diagram of an industrial servo system where some object is to be moved or according to some speed, and it is coupled to a motor through some gear or speed reduction. And then this power supply of the motor is coming from a device called servo drive, and the position is being sensed by some sensor here, and that is fed to the control system. Okay, and control system is getting a motion command from a host computer. Okay, and it's generating the control input, and that is amplified by the servo drive, and that is giving the power supply to the motor. Another example, the position control, servo-based position control system, servo system position control system, where the basic building block, the main control system is very well known to you. Control device, servo motor is generating the motion or with the help of its torque that is generated with the servo motor, and the amplifier is giving its necessary power, and it is amplifying the error signal. Reference input and feedback is compared. So, as it is a closed loop control system, if you very closely investigate it, you will find this basic block diagram or basic control system block diagram. Okay. Now, if I go back, so here the main actuating element is the motor, electric motor. It is called servo motor. The term servo derived from actually servant. Okay, servant. Actually, mother word is servant. Servant means it obeys the command of the master. So from that servant, the term servo came. Actually, it tracks the commanded or reference input, commanded position or velocity or acceleration. Commanded motion. It tracks the commanded motion. And as this motor is doing this tracking control, it is called servo motor. There are two types of servo motors depending upon the power supply. One is called DC servo motor. Another one is called AC servo motor. AC servo motor nowadays are not in use in the industry, but DC servo motor, quite a good number of DC servo motors are still in use. Although there are different types of actuators available for servoing, but still electric servo motors or DC servo motors are quite preferred because of its accuracy, the performance, ease of control. Anyway, again, DC servo motors are divided into two categories. One is armature controlled motor, armature controlled DC servo motor, and field controlled DC servo motors. But field controlled DC servo motors are very rarely used. Most of the cases, armature controlled DC servo motors are used because the speed that is to be controlled is below the rated speed, below the base speed, rated speed. Here we will perform the experiment, virtual experiment, of course, employing armature controlled DC servo motor, because in the lab we have that setup. Here, the speciality of this DC servo motor is that the field flux is generated by a permanent magnet. Okay? Permanent magnet excited armature control DC motor. So we need not be worried about the field supply because it's a permanent magnet. The construction wise, it's very similar. Principle of operation wise, construction wise, very similar to the ordinary DC motor or commercial DC motors. That's why I have incorporated this diagram in the PPT. So two fluxes are operating with each other. One is armature, another one is field, and they are in quadrature, as we have studied in your electric machine paper. Now, what is special in servo motor compared to general purpose or ordinary DC motor? What is the difference between DC servo motor and DC motor, ordinary DC motor? See, the answer lies in its intended application. The intended application of DC servo motor is that it should be capable of manifesting fast dynamic response. It should be very fast in its dynamic response. I hope you know what is dynamic response and what is steady state response. When something is changing, the dynamic condition, the response is dynamic response. That is, its transient performance should be very, very fast. But still, it should exhibit its oscillatory nature within limit. Overall, its dynamic response should be fast, so that its tracking is good. If the system has a sluggish dynamic response, what will happen? There will be time lag between the desired response and the actual response if it is sluggish. That's why we don't want, as we don't want sluggish response, or we don't want any delay in the response, we prefer the motor to be very fast, quite fast, if not very fast. And should have least non-linearity. Ideally, it should be linear. There we will not allow any non-linearity, because you know non-linearity in a system leads to steady state error. More non-linearity, more steady state error. We don't want steady state error. We want the tracking is perfect. That means zero error. But some error occurs, and if it is within the tolerance, we are happy. But the source of error should be removed during the design and fabrication of the motor. How it is done? The answer is given in the lower part of the slide. Number one, dynamic response. How it is achieved? By reducing the armature inertia. As it is a mechanical system, main sluggishness is due to the armature inertia. Armature, in system theory, you might have studied that a DC servo motor, you have derived the transfer function of DC servo motor, and you found it has two time constants. One is electrical time constant due to the presence of inductance and resistance, and another one is mechanical time constant. It is occurring due to the presence of inertia and damping. Now, electrical time constant is very small. That's why you always neglected the electrical time constant, and your resulting system, approximated system, boiled down to first order system, as mechanical time constant is quite higher. Mechanical time constant should be bounded to minimum value, and for that you have to reduce the armature inertia, the rotating part, inertia of the rotating part. How it is done? Inertia of a system is directly related to the diameter. Now, if you reduce the diameter of the rotor or the armature, obviously its inertia will be reduced. But what will happen? If you reduce the diameter of a rotating machine, its power output will be reduced drastically, because the mechanical power output of any rotating machine is proportional to the square of the diameter. In machine design, it can be proved. In machine design books, it is available. The proof is available. The power output is proportional. Power output of a rotating machine is proportional to the square of the diameter. Now, if you reduce the diameter, its power output will get reduced drastically. In order to compensate that, In order to compensate that, what we do, anybody is waiting in the wait to join?
Yes, sir.
I'm getting notifications. Yeah, somebody is waiting. 51 people attended, including me. I've added. Anyway, is the slide visible now?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what you do, in order to keep the power output constant, you can increase the axial length of the diameter. As a result, what happens, the geometry of a DC servo motor is different from the geometry of a DC motor. If you compare the geometry of a DC servo motor with a commercial DC motor of same power rating, remember, you will find that a DC servo motor is slimmer and longer than a commercial DC motor. I repeat, a DC servo motor will be slimmer and longer than a commercial DC motor because we want to make it fast in speed. Okay, next point, how to reduce the nonlinearity? As we are using magnetic material, a good amount of magnetic material, and you know that the nonlinearity of magnetic material lies in its hysteresis characteristics. Okay, so you must select a type of magnetic material and your design. During design, that means you should keep the flux density to a value such that it doesn't move to the saturation level so easily. So voltage variation would be such that your design is such that due to the rated voltage variation, it never enters into the saturation region in the magnetic characteristics. Number one. Number two, the mechanical components like machine components like gear, bearing, they should be accurate. One, the more accurate gearing, because for speed reduction we quite often use gear train. So gears and bearing and other mechanical equipments should be such that it doesn't have nonlinearity. Okay, so these are the significant factors that make DC servo motor special compared to the ordinary DC motor. So when you go to the market and want to buy DC servo motor, first of all, the seller will give you ordinary DC motor. And if you do not understand the difference between ordinary DC motor and DC servo motor, probably you will take a wrong decision. And nowadays, DC motors, along with gearbox, people sell it like DC servo motor, but they are not DC servo motors. DC servo motors are costly, quite costly. A quarter horsepower DC servo motor will cost around minimum two times than a DC motor, because many things are different or special in design or fabrication in DC servo motor. That makes it costlier, because you have to give good quality of magnetic material. The components should be chosen of good quality. That makes the cost higher. Now, this is the experimental setup that we have in our laboratory, though I have taken it from the data sheet or user manual of that experimental setup. It is given by Feedback Systems UK. This is the DC motor, DC servo motor, and it is the actual DC motor is just below this cover. Oh my God. Actual servo motor, my mouse is faulty actually. It's giving problem. Difficult control. Okay, the DC servo motor is just below this cover. The schematic diagram is given, although it's a bit hazy, and the motor is the motor shaft is coupled to the speed sensor. It's a tacho generator. Tacho generator is coupled to the DC servo motor using a shaft coupling. It is a flexible type shaft coupling because the alignment, because of the alignment, if a slight misalignment occurs between this shaft and this shaft, what will happen? Unnecessary vibration and unbalanced torque may damage this delicate equipment. Tacho generator is a very costly sensor. Okay. And a metal disc, aluminum disc, is mounted on the motor shaft for some purpose. I will explain it later on. Okay, now another important module. All modules are not used in this experiment. Only the modules used are marked by color, red colored text. Okay. Now, a servo amplifier is necessary to give necessary power supply to the DC servo motor. So this is the servo amplifier which actually give necessary voltage, variable voltage. Depending upon the control situation, it generates, it supplies the necessary armature voltage to the DC servo. Now, this servo amplifier, you know that amplifier takes the power supply from a power source. So this is the power source, regulated power supply. Its power voltage is plus minus 15 along with the mid tap 0. So plus 15, 0, minus 15. Most of the components are to be connected to the power supply separately. Like this tacho generator, these units, they are actually connected to the power supply. And the motor is also supplied, armature to be supplied by the servo amplifier. Okay, another unit that is necessary is the rotary potentiometer. Two potentiometers are here, and you have to give power supply like 0 to 15 volt or 0 to minus 15 volt here to get a divider, use it as a potential divider for this experiment to generate a variable DC voltage using this potentiometer. We use this potentiometer to generate variable DC voltage. Variable means I want to say apply 1 volt or 2 volt or 5 volt to the you can say as a reference input. This will be used to generate reference input for the control system, servo control system. Okay. Now next thing. The next thing that is to be explained, that is the brake, permanent magnet brake, or it's also called eddy current brake. See, this aluminum disc, I will show the video. The aluminum disc is allowed to rotate, freely rotate within this powerful permanent magnet. So what happens within this limited air gap, the magnetic field is very strong. And if it cuts, if the aluminum disc cuts the flux, then what happens? The EMF, eddy current will be induced. Okay, eddy current will be induced in this disc, and that will oppose the cause. That will generate a torque that will oppose the cause, that is the rotation. So in this way, if I allow the disc to penetrate more and more inside the flux, then flux density applied by this permanent magnet, more load torque. That means torque opposing to the motor torque will be generated. That means more and more loading can be applied on the motor shaft just by allowing the magnet to apply or pass more flux through this disc. So it is movable. This structure is movable. By moving it, we can allow the torque to vary. So this is the entire system that we are going to use. So this is the connection diagram. One mistake is there. See, the armature is connected over here. Actually, this is to be connected at here, at this point. A jumper is there. So a small mistake is there. So what happens? We are using the potentiometers to generate variable voltage. And if you want to add the two voltages, you use a summing amplifier, and that gives the voltage supply to the servo amplifier. And servo amplifier amplifies this voltage. Okay, power amplification is done, and it gives sufficient current and voltage to the armature so that it can generate the required amount of torque. And this is the tacho generator. and this is the load unit. Now data is given for the benefit of the students and for the simplicity of the experiment. A TACO generator constant is given. So if you during the experiment, we will measure the output voltage of the TACO generator. And a constant TACO, which is called TACO constant, 2.7 volt per 1000 RPM. So if you find that the voltage is say 2.5 volt, so from this relation you can find out for 2.7 volt speed is 1000. So for 2.5 by unitary method you can calculate the RPM. Okay, and another one is brake torque characteristic data is given and for 1000 RPM. Okay, for any other speed the torque can be calculated proportionately. So for brake position, so this eddy current brake is calibrated this side as number of position from starting from 10 to 0. 0 means no cutting of flux and 10 means maximum. So when the brake position 10 is there, so maximum torque is load torque is generated, and for load brake position 0, no load torque is applied. So relation is such that when brake position is 2 and in the equilibrium condition, load torque and machine torque is same. So we can take this is as the shaft torque. So when brake position 2, this shaft for 1000 RPM, the shaft torque will be 5 millinewton meter. For 3, the shaft torque will be 23 millinewton meter, like that. For brake position 10, the shaft torque will be 160 millinewton meter. So in between this position, for any other speed, you can proportionately calculate. Say for brake position 10, your speed is say 900 RPM. So from here you can calculate. For 1000 RPM, the torque is 160. So for 900 RPM, the torque will be this much. The assumption is that why it is true, why you can take it as a true. Let me show a diagram. See, the speed torque characteristic of DC servo motor is like this, linear, ideally. So we can make the interpolation or extrapolation very easily, linearly. That is the idea. So we will take this table to calculate the torque corresponding to some speed in a particular brake position. We will use this data, I repeat, we will use this data or table to calculate the torque generated by the motor for a particular brake setting, okay, for various speeds, so that we can plot this speed torque characteristic. Any doubt that I have discussed so far? Now gradually I will enter into the experimental part. So let me show you a demonstration video. So this is the potentiometer. Okay, I can vary the voltage at here. This is the summing amplifier, a very simple operational amplifier circuit. This is the motor. This is the aluminum disc. It is this one is the permanent magnet, and this is movable. This is the shaft coupling part. See, this is calibrated. The shaft coupling, although it is shown in metallic, but inside there is rubber bushing. This is the TACO generator. The motor is inside. I tried to show it, but it's dark. Light was there actually at that time. But this is the servo amplifier. And this is the power supply. The current measurement in part, this meter was faulty, so we replaced that meter by a multimeter, standard multimeter. We are measuring the current here, armature current, and we are measuring the TACO voltage here. Taking the tapping it here, we use a multimeter. I think multimeter was visible. Yeah, this multimeter. No. This is for armature current. That multimeter I omitted. Sorry, very sorry. The voltage output of the tachometer is also measured by a multimeter. Although there is a digital meter, but that meter is not properly working now. So this is the experimental setup. Now I'll enter into the experimental part. Although I have taken a snapshot from a report readily available at the laboratory. Before that, let me read out the experimental procedure. So all the connections are done. I'm omitting that. The first thing that we have to do, let me read out. And if you have the file open in front of you, you can also read from the that instruction sheet. It says that run 4A, connect the servo motor and the servo amplifier for armature control mode. Set the brake position 10. Switch on the power supply. Rotate the attenuator pot slowly till the input voltage to the servo amplifier is 7 volt. Okay. Note the corresponding supply current and record data in the following tabular form. So the table is given. So brake position 10. We will start at brake position 10. Keep the motor at brake position 10. Brake at brake position 10. That means the maximum load torque is applied. And for that, we will measure the armature current IS using this multimeter, the voltage generated as the tacho generator output VG, and from that we will calculate the speed in RPM as well as radian per second, and we will also calculate the torque from the table. From the RPM, corresponding RPM, we will calculate the torque from the table shown in the previous slide. We will repeat the experiment for EI 8 volt and 9 volt. So 3 voltage position in the instruction sheet was given, that is 7 volt, 8 volt, 9 volt. But at present, the experiment is performed for the armature input. Let me go back. This diagram. EI is this one, this voltage. The second pot is not there. Only one potentiometer is there, and this voltage is given as, this is the EI. Okay, armature voltage that is being given to the servo amplifier. Input to the servo amplifier is the EI. So now it is done with 1 volt and 2 volt. For the older setup, it was done for 7 volt, 8 volt, and 9 volt. Now this experimental setup has been changed. The voltage rating has got reduced, and it is done for EI 1 volt and 2 volt. Okay. Let me show you the data. Although not very clear, but vital portion is there. So brake position 10, the EI is 1 volt, and for brake position 10, we have noted armature current 1.55 ampere and tacho voltage 1.18, and corresponding RPM was calculated as 437 point something 04. And if we reduce the brake position to keeping the EI constant, that means armature voltage constant, if I reduce the brake position to 8, what will happen? The armature current will also reduce theoretically, because less torque is required to counter the load torque, and the armature current is proportional to the load torque. So 1.34, it has become 1.34 from 1.55, and correspondingly VG has also increased, because as the load reduced, the speed will increase, because it will accelerate from the principle of conservation of energy. Now we have reduced the brake position to 6. So what happens? The armature current is again getting down, and the voltage or RPM is going up. And finally, for 4 and 2, you see the armature current has gone down, and the armature speed or shaft speed has increased, and corresponding torque is also calculated. So speed is going up and torque is also going up. And for voltage that EI 2 volt, same pattern is following. So if I try to plot it, it will follow this pattern. Yes, although it's hazy, not very clear, but see the pattern. If this is for EI 1 volt, this is for EI 2 volt. Sorry, it is for 1 volt and lower one is for 2. Yes. No. I was wrong. The lower one was 1 volt and the upper one was 2 volt. Okay. So by very simple method, just by varying the load torque, we could determine the speed torque characteristics, and by measurement of the armature speed. By measurement of the armature speed and the variation of load torque, we are able to get the speed torque characteristics. We are estimating the load, we are estimating the armature torque indirectly, not directly, from the calibration data. Remember, we are assuming that the system is linear. We are assuming the speed torque, we are assuming linear speed torque characteristic because we have assumed the system is linear. But we want to check whether this assumption is true or not. Whether the assumption is true or not, we want to check. That means the first thing that we will check is whether the electrical characteristics, that means the magnetic circuit, whether the magnetic circuit is linear or not. So we want to check the hysteresis, the most commonly available or commonly occurring nonlinearity in any electromechanical system is the hysteresis characteristics. Any doubt up to this discussion? Whatever I have discussed so far?
Yes.
Okay, and let me proceed further. Okay, demonstration video for the first part. See, I have kept the position here, maximum 10, and the voltage setting was done at 1 volt. 1 volt, more or less 1 volt. I have tested it with multimeter, 1 volt, 1.02, and this multimeter is being used for measurement of tacho voltage. The motor is running, so this is the tacho voltage. This is the armature current. And next run, what will be done? The loading will be changed. From 10, it will be switched to 8, brake position 8. I tried to show the tracing of the wire so that you can, yeah, I am changing the brake position to lower one. What will happen? The current will change. The speed will also. See. Okay. Now, what we will do now, we will change the input voltage, keeping the brake position constant. In order to determine the hysteresis, what we will do, we will keep the brake position constant. Say here it is we said that keep the brake position 3. Keeping the brake position at 3, we will increase the input voltage EI gradually. Okay, up to the maximum value. How much? The maximum value is dictated by the armature current. We should not exceed the armature current beyond 1.7 ampere. See the data, we have increased the following the same procedure as I have shown you, but without changing the brake position. We kept the brake position constant and varied the armature voltage by just rotating the potentiometer knob. So 0.5. We observed the current. We changed the current from 0.5 when the EI was 0.23, and we gradually increased the EI up to 1.5 volt, 58 volt, and then the current was 1.5 ampere. And corresponding tacho generator voltage was this much. And from here we could calculate the speed. And if you like, you can calculate the torque from here using that table. Now, without switching off this, the power supply, after achieving this maximum value, attaining at the maximum value of current, we will decrease the voltage EI from maximum to minimum. So what will happen? We will again get a set of reading for the tacho generator like this. So increasing, here it is decreasing. So what actually we got from this experiment? If you plot this data, input voltage versus the speed, you will see that the rising graph and the falling graph are not coinciding. A small amount of, although they are quite linear, but still they do not coincide each other. So this actually gives the idea about the nonlinearity or hysteresis. Hysteresis type of nonlinearity is present. I think some of you have opted this special paper, nonlinear and optimal control of you. Okay, so see, this is a good example or good demonstration of nonlinearity present in DC servo motor. So remember, hysteresis is a kind of very hard nonlinearity. There are two types of nonlinearity, hard and soft. So hard nonlinearity are very difficult to overcome using control action. There are different types of controls that are employed to overcome nonlinearity. So this is a hard nonlinearity. Now, the last part of the experiment is the transient response. Transient response, I have not performed the transient response experiment, but just I will explain it qualitatively here and quantitatively also. See, the transient response, if I talk about transient response of a typical servo system, it looks like this, slightly underdamped. Most of the cases, but in critical applications like in robotics, industrial robot, for example, we cannot allow this oscillation. Industrial robots are designed for, the servo system of industrial robots are designed for critically damped response, because in robot, we cannot allow any vibration or oscillation. Suppose a surgical robot, a surgeon is operating, doing surgery using laparoscopic surgery using a robot. If the robot oscillates, the end of the robot oscillates, what will happen? Instead of cutting a small amount of space, it will cut a very larger space. That is not recommended. That's why all types of robots, whether it's surgical robot or industrial robot, it should be free from any oscillation. So we allow slow response, but we cannot allow any oscillation. Accuracy is very important. So dynamic response, earlier days we had a very, very nice experimental setup, or not experimental setup, it was a part of the experimental setup called strip chart recorder. It used to record the transient response of the servo system for a step input like this on a paper in real time. That system got damaged and we could not get a replacement till date. So we are in a process of designing our own data acquisition system. Using that data acquisition system, hopefully in the coming semester, we'll be able to show the student the digital record. Actually, it is quite challenging because the response is so fast. The data to be captured is at a very hard real time. That is a problem. Now, this dynamic response, see what is the specialty in this dynamic responses? You just neglect all these small oscillations. These are due to noise. These are the noise. If you neglect the noise, see the curve or the graph is very similar to the step response of a first order system. Step response of a first order system. Okay. So this is a very, you can say, important or very interesting observation. Because why I'm saying interesting? See, in the system theory, you have neglected the electrical time constant, and the resulting system was a first order type system, for approximated system was a first order type system. Here also, although this system is inherently second order one, but the step response is very similar to a first order. So whatever assumption we have done in system theory while deriving the transfer function of a DC servo motor is quite valid. From experimental evaluation, we are getting support. Now see, this response is of immense importance in deriving the transfer function. How? See, we have seen from our basic college physics, or also in the first year physics, or in transfer function also, that the time constant in system theory also you have seen that if I know the time constant of this first order response, we can derive the transfer function, because there is only one time constant in the transfer function. So from here, if I take this is the 0, there is an offset, this much offset. So if I take this as the 0 axis, then if I calculate the final value or steady state value as this, and if I take 63.7% and draw a perpendicular, okay, then what will happen? This will give you the time from here to here, will give you the time constant, the first order system. And once you get the time constant, you can write down the transfer function. And from the gain, okay, you know the input, what input has been applied and what output are you getting. So from here you will get the gain. So you are getting gain as well as the transfer time constant, and from here you can derive the transfer function very easily, first order transfer function. So in the first semester you performed identification of linear system by frequency response test. In this semester, with one experiment, you are performing actually 2 experiments. In the last part of the experiment, you are now aware of the fact that from the time response also, you will be able to find out the transfer function with some limited scope. But it's possible. In process control industry, it has very wide application, from the determination of transfer function from time response. And I have jotted down few references. These links, I will encourage all of you to go through these links. They are very nice tutorials. Very nice tutorials are given on servo systems. You should know it. By being an electrical engineer or would be electrical engineer, you must know the servo system, because in industry, particularly in automation industry, you'll find a lot of applications of servo systems. And this textbook, I hope all of you read this textbook, Control System Engineering by Nagrath and Gopal. And also you can follow the textbook by Isipo, textbook by Ogata, and so on. So this is all about the experiment in the virtual mode. I have tried to address all important and relevant aspects of the experiment. If you have any doubt, you can ask me right now, because we have 5 to 6 minutes left for my slot. Or if you if some query arise in your mind later on, you can send that to my WhatsApp. So at the conclusion, we can say that we have performed a very nice experiment where we have seen how to derive the speed torque characteristics and how to check the nonlinearity present in a DC servo motor, and also from the time response we were able to find out the transfer function of the system. So I will, as an exercise, I will ask you to go through some textbook and find out how to derive the transfer function of a time response. In most of the good textbook, you will find some example or some theorem is given. Very simple, straightforward. Any doubt regarding the derivation of transfer function? No doubt. So no response means either you have assimilated whatever I have said so far, or you didn't understand anything. So your laboratory coordinator, Professor S. Kar Chaudhary, asked me to send few questions. So there will be some, I think, online test, MCQ type, to evaluate your understanding about the experiment that I have discussed so far. I shall share the PDF of this PPT. Please go through the references, these links that I have given for the reference, as well as this PPT. Okay, I think you have no doubt at this moment, but if doubt arises in your mind, doubt occurs in your mind, please feel free to send those queries in my WhatsApp or email.
Okay, sir.
Best wishes for the online test of this experiment.
Online test, sir, when will it happen?
So last semester also online test happened, sir.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It is mandatory.
Sir, do you know about any tentative date yet?
Yes.